to talk a little bit about how really we're modernizing professional services. And you think about whether it's professional services or anything we do, there's so many disruptors coming at us. There's changes in technology and how we use data. All of our customer, consumer, all of you, expectations of what you get for the dollar you pay is changing. We have new investors that enter into the area all the time, whether they're investing in our company or into our competition. It makes us rethink the services that we provide. And so our panelists here today, they're going to talk through the journey that they've been on, just some of the insights that they've had, and hopefully everybody here walks out with a nugget or two as far as the opportunities that are in front of you and how you can leverage some of what they did. So we're going to first start out. I'm going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves, your name, your role, the company you work for and what you do, and then most importantly, who are the customers that you serve?
Jacob Larson. I currently work for Walker Consultants, parking and transportation consulting firm here in Omaha. Throughout the whole United States, this will be my third week with them, but previously I was actually with the City of Omaha in the Parking and Mobility Division. So if you've ever used the Park Omaha app, I was kind of in the backgrounds running the data.
You're the one?
I didn't set the rates. Rates were not my decision. But yeah, kind of making it a little more easier for everyone to get to find parking. So we actually, you can find parking on Park Omaha's website. You can actually go and find predictive paid parking. So you can actually click the zones, and if you're going downtown, figure out if it's 50% full or 20% full going to an event. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now for Walker, kind of leading their data science as a service.
Well, appreciate that. I'm Ryan Wade. I'm with Lutz. I'm a director in their technology division. Lutz is a large professional services firms. We work with small, medium-sized, kind of privately held businesses, providing accounting, technology, financial, talent. That's what we do today. We're probably going to add some more, but it's just all services wrapped around helping businesses become more profitable. And so, hoping to provide a perspective, not only what we do internally, but then what we help, our clients when they're kind of going through their journey.
Good afternoon, test. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Dolinski. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tech Nebraska. I work for DOTComm, which is an acronym, Douglas Omaha Technology Commission. We do all the work for all the city and the county departments. There's over 100 different departments, primarily anything from cloud-based work, we have our own on-prem data center, we have desktop support. My role at DOTComm is I'm a web architect. I work across 5 different areas. Primarily ERP. We still run a mainframe, so I'm still involved with that. Actually started my career doing that. Also web applications, as well as data analytics, and also SaaS and COTS.
Is it on? Hi, I'm Kelli Kramer. I am the Director of Marketing at Olsson. We are an engineering design firm headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska. About 2,500 people. I lead a team of about 30 marketing professionals, and we really support our technical teams in how they win work in 6 major markets: transportation, water, technology, energy, industrial, and federal. So we work with both private clients and public clients. A little note, I did junior achievement this morning for 3rd graders, and I hope you are an easier crowd. Leave it there.
So Kelli, let's start with you. Just in simple terms, what is modernizing professional services? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I thought about this. We got prepped, so I feel like I have some answers, but I thought about this, and I think that modernizing services in my world, it used to be about how can we be faster? How can we be faster at our jobs? But really faster doesn't just really mean let's do more work. Faster should actually be smarter. And when we take the time that we're getting back because we are faster using technology and using the data that we have in a way that we can be faster, we should take that time and be smarter with it. So more strategy, more creativity, more storytelling in my world is really what I'm after. And when I think about modernizing what we do from a very linear process to really a more strategic and creative process, that's what I think about when I think about modernizing professional services in what I do.
We'll just keep going down the line.
Yeah, so when I think about that question, a couple things come to mind. One of them is just aligning with the business goals. And, one of the things that DOTComm does do still is, patching servers, patching desktops, and that's not really value add for the customer. So we're moving all of that out to the cloud. We're going serverless so that we can focus on the business requirements, their solutions, their needs that they need for them to be more efficient and automate, tasks that are routine tasks that can be automated. In addition to that, there's a lot of skill transformation that is going on because technology is moving so fast. I think if we got a quarter for every time we heard AI today, we have enough money for lunch this week. But we are also getting into AI as well. So we've got a couple initiatives. Maybe we'll touch on them.
There's different buckets when it comes to modernizing services, and it kind of comes back to the why. There is a couple of areas. One would be the quality of the services that we provide our clients. Obviously, it would be a category, but we need to be more flexible than ever. Our industry is changing significantly faster than ever, and we need to be able to be prepared to pivot as necessary. And in order to do that, we have to have the right team members, the right processes, and the right technology in place. I think, along the lines of speed and productivity is quality of life. I think one of the things that we really are challenged with, especially on our accounting side, is there is a busy season where people are working 80-hour consecutive, weeks, in that kind of March and April timeframe. And, that's happened. One of the things that we measure is it's one thing to be at pretty consistent 55-hour weeks, but once you get to 65 and 75, you're impacting people's lives and their family life and their health. And so in order for us to stay ahead, we need to deliver that quality of life, and that means we have to have the technology in place to serve them.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's definitely kind of user experience. So when I was at the city at parking, it was really kind of using our data to make data-driven decisions, but then also pushing that out to the public. So everybody who uses the app or wanting to get that data out, really be able to use it to benefit if you're going downtown, or if you want to see, one garage is getting full. And then now transitioning to Walker, it's really been how can we make consultants to planners to analysts work on the analysis side easier so that they can then go to their clients, and then their clients can now understand their data story and where they're at.
So as technology has been changing and you're working with your customers and the services that they're expecting from you, what are some of the key things that you're hearing from them? Is it go faster? Is it new services? Is it changes of how you operate, both technology and data? What are you guys seeing? Jacob, I'll start with you.
Yeah, definitely in the parking and airport transportation space, it's big, shiny, new things. AI is a lot right now, so everybody's, where can I use AI? How can I embed AI? Can I put it on my website? Can I use it internally? So it's really been new, shiny tools right now for us, but then also kind of being able to still push, like, in order to get to AI, you really have to understand your building blocks of your data. Everybody wants to get to there, but you got to start somewhere. And if you don't even understand what your data even means to you, then AI may not be a solution right now for them. So really kind of walking them through that.
Yeah, I think a couple things that come to mind, separating out kind of the data trends and then the AI trends. So from the data side of the perspective, I think what things are more possible than they've ever been to connect your data, transform it with different data analytics platforms. We happen to be a Microsoft shop, so we're doing a lot with Microsoft Fabric and Power BI, and utilizing that data is easier than ever to transform your business and become a more profitable company. And so it was really exciting to see how quickly that evolved, where it would be large data warehouse projects in the past. Now, small, medium-sized businesses could more leverage that in a more practical way. And so we've seen a lot of progress in that standpoint. I would say what we're seeing is those businesses are more just they're just catching up on reporting that they haven't had before, let alone getting to analytics. So we're helping those clients position themselves so they can get to more predictive analytics, things of that nature, but we're kind of seeing them kind of go through that maturity curve. And that's taken some time. I mean, how long has it been since big data was the big thing? I mean, that's been a long time and a long journey, let alone when this AI thing, just this tidal wave came in. And I think many of us in the room saw that AI, just even the last couple of years, opened up the conversation in a brand new way. I mean, AI got the attention of the boardroom and the executive room. I mean, they could go in there and mess around and ask it a personal question or have it write a poem for them or whatever it is, and they're like, you didn't have to train them to do it, so just open up, what was possible in their imaginations. But to your point, I mean, you have to have that data foundation in place, organized and ready to go for AI to really be connected to your business data and make a difference. And there's a lot of hard work there to be done. Both structured and unstructured data before you start plugging in things like, Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT, because, it's surfacing data that they had access to before, but they didn't know they had access to it before. And so these LLMs are now surfacing that up, and I think we're in this spot where it's a really scary spot for, especially from a security and an information and data governance and controls perspective. So we're starting to hit that part of it, but in the technology field, I mean, I think most of us would agree that is in the space is it is so exciting about what's possible, but there's a lot of hard work that's it's going to take to really have these businesses take hold and get the value out of it.
One of the things that we've been also seeing across all of our departments is also data, but one of the things that all of our departments understand really well, especially the members within those departments, is the data that is in their databases and their applications. But with Douglas County being around since 1854, there's a lot of historical data, and most of the data that is out there, I would say industry says 80%, is unstructured or semi-structured data. And in order to get value out of that data, just like what Ryan was saying, Jacob was saying, you really have to do a lot of hard work. And so some of the initiatives that we've been working with our clients on is really bringing that unstructured data into a lake so that they can do more analytics on the data that they have and just augment and be able to make better predictive decision making. That's what we're really hearing from them, is they want to be able not to see what happened yesterday, but to know what's happening tomorrow.
I think that for me the biggest shift has been speed. And so just a bit about my business. I really work with internal clients, so my technical teams. So my technical teams will come to me and say, I need somebody that knows how to do X, Y, Z, and I need 4 projects that's going to represent that. And by the way, I need that by 3 o'clock. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was doing this, it was very easy for me to do that because I knew who everybody was, I knew all our projects. And now when we're 2,500 people with, I don't even know how many offices anymore spread across the United States, that becomes really inefficient for my team to try to figure that out and not be able to do that very quickly. And so, bringing all of our data together, a knowledge management sort of tool, and to be able to say, okay, this is what I need, this is what I'm looking for, and to be able to talk back and forth with our data, I can speed that up exponentially faster than traditionally. Making 10 phone calls to find one person who does one thing is terribly inefficient anymore, and we just don't have the time anymore to be able to do that. And I think the shift on the external client side, and I don't work with a whole lot of external clients, but it's probably around transparency. And I'm starting to see more clients ask about AI-generated content, for example, and how much you're using that when they're putting out their request for proposals. And I think we really need to be very mindful of that and be very thoughtful in how we use that information to curate our data.
Yeah, all of you mentioned data, all of you mentioned driving decisions. At the end of the day, we're all looking for outcomes, right? And we have a service to provide, and the better the service we provide, the more business that we can generate. Can each of you talk a little bit about how you leverage data, how you leverage those decisions to provide an outcome to a customer that maybe would have taken longer or you wouldn't have been able to as you went forward. So Jacob, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so we are right now kind of building out a digital curb management tool. So in cities, municipalities, curb management, access at the curb, delivery freight is a big talker right now. And so we're really bringing out a new tool to be able for the clients to kind of look at their data in a geographical representation, but then also in charts and graphs. But from there, really being able to then use that data, filter, slice, extract. That's kind of where we're at in the beta right now.
A couple of thoughts come to mind. I keep saying that, so I'll stop qualifying. You know, when we're working internally or with clients, we're trying to take them through this journey. So it's first about giving visibility into the data, but there's always, you know, a gap or a process that needs to be changed or something that needs to kind of adapt in order for them to drive the outcome that they're looking for. And you know, so that visibility is kind of the first step, but then you need to challenge and kind of consult with them to kind of bring them along that journey so that they change those processes so that they can get better and get more profitable or more productive. And so there's a lot of hard work that comes. The thing that came to mind, and we had prepared for that question, but I'm surprised on how many businesses don't know what outcomes they're looking for. I mean, you really need to challenge them. You know, when you ask a business about what their strategy is or what their initiatives are, many of them don't know how to answer that question. It's usually, okay, well, we wanted to grow 20%, and the why is not there. And so we're trying to challenge ourselves. I mean, we're guilty of those things as well, but really challenge them on the outcomes they're trying to achieve and why they're trying to achieve them. Because if you have those things, then you can put the right technology and data plan in place. Without that, you're doing technology for technology's sake. And so, you know, for all of us in the room, it's so easy to start working in the business versus on the business. And so, you know, it was an interesting question when you talk about outcomes because, you know, a lot of the ourselves and the clients we serve, we need to challenge them to put those things in place. You know, take the time to really derive what outcomes you want from your technology.
Yeah, to kind of echo what Ryan was saying, you know, when we consult with our departments and the department directors, you know, they think of data in terms of applications. So to them, data is an application, but we all know data lives a lot longer than the application that you're going to be using. And a lot of those departments, they have generations of applications, and so we sit down with them and we go through their process, and they have to look in this spreadsheet or this folder, and then ultimately into this new application. And so being able to bring that all together to improve efficiency, and one of the things that we've been working with those departments is just kind of dipping our toe into AI and helping them to make sure that their websites are current. That's data out there that's being published for citizens, you know, anybody to get information, and keeping that up to date is very important. And I remember the very first time we kind of put a chat bot and crawled all the websites and used that as a knowledge base, and we put that out to the departments to kind of test it out. The first thing that they said that when they came back to us is, the thing that you built is wrong. It's telling me this, and what I said to them was, no, it's getting it from your website, and it had the reference to the link. So they actually used that tool to help them find data on the website that was inaccurate so that they could update it.
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned something, and our marketing team just had talked to us about, for the first time, you know, tracking how people got to our website. ChatGPT starting to pop up, which is interesting. I mean, that's a brand new world about, you know, it's not just search engine optimization now. You're having to optimize your site towards, you know, what these LLMs are going to find as the most credible data.
I'm going to come at this a little bit differently. You know, you mentioned outcomes. I think that's a big thing for me when I'm thinking about how data drives my decisions internally with my team. And I think the big piece for us was, well, what was the challenge? You know, are we going to just do this for technology's sake? What really was our challenge, and then what we wanted that outcome to be? And how do we use our data to make better decisions that drives improvement and, you know, continuous learning? And so I'm a little bit of a data nerd, and I'm pretty sure that's the only reason I'm on this panel, is to talk about that. But when we implemented or wanted to implement a solution that was going to help with one of our challenges, a big thing for me was understanding how it's helping and being able to drive what we do with it with data. And so putting out monthly surveys to my team to make sure that we were getting to the outcome that we wanted to get to was really important to me, and it really informed how we trained. It really informed how we worked with our partners. And so I use data a little bit differently internally to make some of those decisions when, you know, traditionally you kind of have to just go with a gut feel. And so it's changed the way I've looked at how we move technology forward in my team.
So Kelli, you mentioned gut feel right there, and you know, why do we crawl all this data, right? We crawl all the data, we're trying to automate processes, we're trying to take the decision out so that it's repeatable, right? And I think we all have people in our organization that are pushing automate everything. And then we have others that are saying, I'm smarter than the machine, right? And neither of them are probably right. However, there is a balance. Sometimes the machine can make a decision. Other times you need that human element, somebody to step in and be that man in the middle to make that decision. How are you guys balancing when to use automation and fully automate it versus putting somebody in as a stopgap just to do that double check to make sure that you're going down the right direction?
Yeah, in my world, we have to have humans in the loop on what we put together, and I think what we use automation for is all the redundant and kind of tactical tasks that we need to do, but really doesn't provide a huge ROI in terms of what we do. And so if we can let the machines and the robots do all of that and gather that information and kind of put that information in a package that we can then review and shape and put a human element and emotional intelligence into, that's really where the partnership comes from. And so I always tell my team, you know, this solution isn't taking over your job. It's not going to just all of a sudden be the only thing we need in our company. We've got to be partners with the solution, because what we do is so human-centered that if we take that human out of the loop, if we take that emotional intelligence out of it and that creativity and what makes us different to our clients and any other firm, then we're going to lose. And so we need to look at automation and those kinds of solutions as partners instead of replacements.
Jim?
Yeah, I 100% agree. The automation is ultimately backed by technology, and as the challenges that were brought to us to kind of help solve, while the LLMs are great because they can do a really good job at solving them, the human aspect of it is imperative. I like to say it's an opinion, and you need to verify it. And as far as the productivity tools, we are a Google shop, and we use productivity tools quite a bit. I'm still a developer at heart, so I still use a lot of vibe coding, if you have not heard that buzzword. But again, if you do write code and you use an LLM to do that, there is a human in our loop, in our feedback loop, that is going to make sure that code is up to our standards before it goes out and be then used by somebody that is looking for a service, looking for the data. So yeah, that's.
Our strategy is to trick them. We start off by adding the efficiency of maybe a couple of spreadsheets that they're needing to combine, and we automate pulling that data in to make their lives easier. And they will inevitably ask for a spreadsheet, basically, in Power BI. Then you start anchoring it in trends, period over period, or starting to give them just a little bit of information to trick them into wanting more. From there, it's pulling out what are you looking for and really trying to get to the exceptions. So can we pull it out of the spreadsheet and save them time by showing them those 10 anomalies that they were looking for? But if you start with just all of the more analytical tools, then they push back because they're like, I need to understand the data. I need it at my hands. I need to wrap my arms around it. But if you kind of bring them through and lie and manipulate them into understanding how powerful it can be, I'm just kidding here.
No, you're not.
That's change. Sorry, it's called change management. No, it is. I mean, it is something that you have. Now, another way to put it is you got to earn their trust. By taking them and kind of showing them the value, and then, oh, by the way, using all these AI tools to document the processes, because we all have risk in people that are doing things in their head today. And that's a challenge for all of us, is extracting that knowledge base from them in the easiest way possible so that we reduce risk and we can then reallocate them into more high-value tasks that they should be working on.
Internally for us, really kind of, I know as touch on RFP, we were seeing a lot of RFPs now saying, yeah, if you use any AI, you have to call it out where it was used. But in writing those RFPs, we're seeing a lot of data's all over the place organizationally. So you have to go into this project folder, this project, and then this file, this subfolder, in order to even start writing RFPs or a peer memo or stuff like that. So I think AI and the human decision is really, you can use AI or any kind of language model to get your data, and you can talk with it, extract it right away, but then actually using it in your writing, I would say, is where that human decision then comes in. What do I want to put in? How do I want to tell that story to win the work, to win more clients down the road?
When you talk about being able to tell that story and just new skill sets that we all need, right? One of the biggest skill sets that we've seen in the last 2 years, prompt engineering, right? Skill set that we hadn't even heard of, and all of a sudden we're all at least having to do it somewhat on a day-to-day basis. Talk a little bit about how you've tried to educate on, you talk about change management, educate people on leveraging ChatGPT or Copilot or any of those, and also talk about what other skill sets you've had to bring forward as we really change the focus of how we deliver those services.
Yeah, so in my first 3 weeks, the amount of times I have heard, oh, I just put in everything into ChatGPT or some kind of model just is absolutely crazy. So our business technology group is now kind of leading more webinars on this is what you put in, this is what you should not put in. If you have a personal account, we are on the Microsoft Suite, so we do have Copilot and we have beta testers that are using it out. So if you're actually going to use it in an organization, for Walker, use Copilot, don't use ChatGPT. But for us, yeah, it's just really kind of using it to really benefit the work you're doing, but understand that there is security risk.
Yes, in terms of internally and then with clients, just educating them on the state of AI, how it works, just giving them a baseline. And then from a prompting perspective, trying little tricks, and kind of call it prompt to prompt, where if, teaching somebody all the different methods, I'm sure you've heard of them, the acronyms to help you understand what to put into a prompt is fine, but, we're going to go to what's easiest, so they're going to one shot put something like they do a Google search. And so what we've been trying is teaching them to use ChatGPT to come up with the best prompt possible to get the best output. And so that's one of the methods, just kind of calling it prompt to prompt. But I've been doing it, and it's been phenomenal in terms of the quality of the output I'm getting. I'm just having ChatGPT just putting in, I'm trying to get this, write me a prompt, and then turning around and using that prompt, and it's been pretty successful. Also teaching them to personalize ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever they're using. So adding in your custom instructions that can save you time, because you don't have to teach the LLM kind of more about you. But those have been the two things that I think have been pretty powerful.
Yeah, from a prompt engineering background, one of the things that we've done real early on was actually get security involved. So when you put data out to a public LLM, there's no safeguards in place that data may not be used for training purposes, and and your data is now being in a model that may be incorrect, or you've got some type of data leakage. So any type of data that's being put into a prompt has to be done within either our private enterprise Google account. I mentioned we do use Google Workspaces. We're also in a cloud shop on AWS or with an Amazon Q. So the good news is security was very early on that particular subject, and providing education in classes and courses out to all the different departments and employees on what the best practices are and how to prevent DLP or data loss prevention. Because that's one of the biggest risks you have with using those public models and putting any prompt in there. Specifically, personal information. There's a lot of different guidelines and rules that we've got in place, and we build guardrails around some of our enterprise tools that we have that will not allow that. It will tell the user that particular prompt is invalid and we need to try again. So we put safeguards in place. We use policy. We use education, but ultimately those users still can get around and use their own personal accounts, and that's a very hard problem to solve.
The two engineers on the panel went cybersecurity immediately.
I was going to say, I hid it from cybersecurity.
I would say that my team's business is in persuasive and creative writing. So inherently, when these things started to pop up, it was, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to continue to do this work? And so I was really intentional about upskilling and getting people to realize, again, human in the loop, that we might not write from scratch, start to finish at this point, but there are other skills that we need. And those skills are, critical thinking, obviously prompt engineering, editing, making sure we understand the client voice and how that works into that information. And so we might be generating content, but we really need to curate it. And so, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I would look for people who knew how to write. If somebody didn't put a cover letter with their resume, they weren't going to get past me because that's part of writing. And now we don't need to look for that anymore so much, but we do still need to look for those skills on critical thinking and strategy and being able to understand how to ask the right things to get your output. What I think is interesting about prompt engineering, though, is I kind of came into this thinking, I'm going to have to start hiring prompt engineers. That work's going to have this group of prompt engineers to do this for us. And really, the solutions do that for us. We don't need to be prompt engineers. We need to understand how to ask it to get us the prompt we need. And I was at a concert. No, I wish I would have been at a concert. A conference last week where one of the keynotes just opened the voice memo and just started talking. And you don't even really need to curate a prompt in a way like we think. That the technology is getting so good that it's starting to just be conversational, and you'll get the output you want. And so really what I'm looking for now more in upskilling and training is some of those critical thinking skills. I think we train each other. We put a solution together. It's a closed model, so we're not out in the ether sharing our information, but be curious. That was the first thing I told my team. I don't know any more than you do. You've got to be curious. You have to experiment. And we share those things together, and that's almost been better training than sitting down in a classroom and kind of going through, well, how do you work this? And so that and really working with good partners who are willing to kind of work with you as you learn, I think has been really helpful.
So being curious, that's a great comment there. And we can all sign up for a Google account. And one of the things that Google will give you is something called gems. And you can go ahead and you can create your own personal assistant. It's a great way to kind of dive into agentic AI and being able to have specialists that you can feed it your information. And again, be careful what you feed it. But to be curious and kind of understand how this could solve problems for you and your business.
So I like where you're going with that, Jim. You know, Ryan, before this, we were talking about a new little technology that you're using to help gather data as you go. Are there other technologies out there like creating this on Google, like this little recording thing? Maybe we can start with you, Ryan, of things maybe we don't know about that all of us should look into that just makes it easier? Beyond ChatGPT and AI in general, like, are there any new niche things that we should be thinking about?
Well, I was just, so we record a lot of meetings using Teams, and then we have Copilot that does recaps, and we have agents that produce the output that we want. And that's been a game changer for a lot of us who are doing business analysis and requirements gathering, things of that nature. So, you know, that being one, but then, you know, there's a lot of meetings that it doesn't make sense to pull up a Google Meet or a Teams meeting, and so we're starting to use Plot as an example. They're little cards that you can flip on and you can record it, and then Plot has its own AI that will do similar type of things. So we've been trying to do that, but that's, I think, you know, I talked about it earlier, trying to extract knowledge from people, and you had mentioned the audio is an amazing tool that we can all use, rather than having somebody sit down and outline their step-by-step processes, but just have a conversation with somebody, and then use these models to kind of produce the output and the documentation. And I mean, documentation is only as good as how up-to-date it is. But now it's easier than ever for us to keep those things up to date as long as we are able to extract it using audio or other methods to do that.
Any others anybody's used or heard of?
I've got maybe an example. Oh, jeez, now I got, technology's not my thing. Hello. So one of the things that I sort of stumbled across, and it was really about training, and how do we train people? How do we get training out to them? How do we not spend a whole lot of their time training? And one of the things I came across was a solution that took written word and created audiobooks. And so the concept was, I've got this 125-page manual that, quite frankly, no one's going to read. It's great material. No one's going to read it. How can I get it into their hands in a way that will resonate with them, and they can do it on their own time? And so I've been using this audiobook kind of thing. It can create podcasts and things like that, but just thinking of different ways you can use technology to deliver content in a world where we're all running 100 miles an hour. And if I can get that training in front of somebody while they're on the treadmill, so be it. You know, I'm doing what I need to be doing to get them trained.
I'm not sure if you're referring to like a Notebook LM from Google, but that is an amazing tool that quite honestly, we haven't operationalized it for training, but it is amazing at pulling in resources. Either you feed it or ask it to go find information on the web, do the audio cast. It blows you away on how good that podcast is. But it also creates Q&A on whatever the material is, and mind maps. I mean, it is such an amazing tool that, quite honestly, I've used it for my kids, and some of their homework is where I started, but you know, just tools that we're starting to experiment with.
I was sitting on a panel here a couple weeks ago, and it was, so I don't know if I introduced, I'm the CIO Scoular, so I generally know about cybersecurity, no expert. And they asked me to be on a panel to talk about cybersecurity. And so I wait till the last minute to look at the questions, and the first question was, how will quantum computing change cyber? I'm like, whoa! So I downloaded the 13 questions, I put them into ChatGPT, I got all the answers, I then put it in Notebook LM, had to generate a podcast, and then I had to go down to Kansas State to see my son, so I listened to it there and back, and I was ready to go Monday morning. So it's pairing those technologies together that helps to do that. So we just have a couple minutes left. I'll open it up. Are there any questions from the crowd that you'd like to ask? Go ahead.
What products do you recommend that will not use your inputs, your ideas, you know, that it is truly a private AI product?
I mean, good question. I think ultimately, I think any of the frontier models give you the ability to go into settings and make sure your learning mode is off. If you do something like a ChatGPT Business or a Microsoft Copilot, those are going to be defaulted off. So that's the place to start. I think the reality is there's this journey, right? There's basic prompting and out of the box, I need general information, which most of us use AI for today. Once you connect it to your data, it's one thing for learning, it's another thing to kind of surface information to others that maybe they shouldn't be viewing. And so there's a huge data governance and cleanup that is required once you connect it to your data. So that is a point where either internally or through other professionals, you need to reach out and get help, because it's Pandora's box. But just starting with the basics, I think just making sure the learning mode is off. It's typically in the settings for ChatGPT or Copilot to make sure that those things are off. I'd recommend, if you're doing it for business purpose, get the business account. It's worth the extra $5-10 a month, because it's gonna more silo your data in those ways. But I would, for us personally, we start with the major frontier models that we're most comfortable with, which are going to be your ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude. I'm not quite there on Grok, but I know a lot of people enjoy Grok as another one.
Yeah, and I would say too that think about the business that you operate in, and I think if you ask the CIO versus the CISO, there's going to be a far different answer, right? And for Scoular, we trade great, right? There's nothing proprietary about what we do. So I trust putting our information into Copilot, and if you find out that I moved a rail to Jerome, you could have found that anyways, right? You do have other things like the Samsung, discussion where they put their code into a public model, right? Yeah, you need to think about that. So I would say think about the business you support. I mean, I think about the companies here in Omaha. Some of them make food, some of them make irrigation pipes, some of them trade grain, right? Is there that much IP that you're gonna, you can trust the Microsoft of the world? If you're working for a government agency or something like that, you probably want to go through and do a little bit more rigor around what you're willing to do. That's my answer.
Don't put the Coca-Cola recipe into any of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's sacred to what you do, but a lot of what we do is.
But, so can you trust that learning model is off button? I mean, is that a level of security that you guys trust?
I don't.
I do.
Yeah, and you heard it today if you were in the session with Attorney General Hilgers. I mean, we are on a new frontier of all of these technologies, and nobody has it completely figured out. So there is a level of trust that you have to have with the companies backing these models, that they're not going to be utilizing your data in ways that you don't want to.
Okay, so any other questions?
I have a question for Kelli.
No.
Kelli, you started the conversation talking about modernizing. To you means speed, right? And you mentioned that as large language models started to proliferate in the world, your team came to you like, are we going to have jobs? And then you talked about upskilling and embracing tech. So I guess my question is, have you seen any job displacement on your team, number one, meaning you haven't hired for roles that you might have hired for in the past, and number two, have you been able to realize the speed? Are you getting more done from a content development, proposal development, and things you do in marketing at Olsson faster?
Thank you for planting that question. Absolutely no jobs have been displaced. So we are as busy as we've ever been. I think we are more efficient in how we do those things. I really haven't had to hire or shift to different roles because of it. I think that what I have found in speed is getting back to that data and that survey. So what I do, and I don't need to get too nerdy, but every month or so I'll send out a survey. How much time are you saving on these tasks? A day, a week? What are you doing with that time? And so from that survey perspective, I can tell that we are incrementally saving time as we get more comfortable with the tool that we're using. And what we're doing with that time, it started with do more proposals. And now it's become, I'm able to mentor our assistant for a longer period of time. I'm able to be more strategic on that, that capture planning that we're doing. And so not only am I seeing in the data that I'm collecting that we are saving more time, but we're using it in a different way. And so the small wins were really just, we're faster. The larger wins are going to be, well, now we're going to be more strategic. We're going to be more of a partner in that process versus the producer of those things. And so I don't, and I really, I don't see that we won't ever hire again. We might slow, you know, the line might not be as steep on how our hiring needs, but I think we're always going to need to hire people that can be the partners to those solutions. And I think my team understands that. Yeah, I think maybe they walked into it thinking, is this gonna do what I do? And they understand that it doesn't do exactly what they do because it's not human, and they're gonna have to be a part of that process.
Okay, with that, we're going to wrap. Brad, thank you for sponsoring us today. To our panelists, thank you for joining. The only other thing I'd leave you with is, so I'm also on the executive committee for Tech Nebraska. Whether it's Tech Nebraska, whether we're looking at helping to create policy to support the technology industry in Nebraska, whether it's Nebraska Tech Collaborative, who is working on the next generation of workforce development, AIM, and Ignite Nebraska, that are looking at reskilling. We're all in a big ecosystem to try to make technology better here. So I'd ask all of you, join one of them, join all of them. I'd love for you to join Tech Nebraska, but help us create a better ecosystem across the state. It will pay off. It'll make all of our jobs better. It'll help fund new innovation that we can do. So please join one of them or all of them. Thank you.